الحمد لله الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما مزيدا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف حالكم جميعا يا أيها الإخوة والأخوات. Alhamdulillah, today's reminder بإذن is for myself first and foremost, and hopefully inshallah ta'ala all of you can take a brief benefit extracted from the words of Al-Alama Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen rahmatullah ta'ala alayh in his commentary to a tremendous poem on the i'tiqad, and deals with many things from Ibn Qayyim al-Nuniyya. Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen, he says, فَإِذَا شِئْتَ أَن تَرِثَ هَذِهِ الْفِرْدَوْسِ فَعَلَيْكَ بِالصِّفَاتِ السَّبْعِ الْمَذْكُورَةِ فِي الْآيَاتِ. He says, so if you really desire to want to inherit this Firdaus, and for many of you who might don't know, Fridaus is the highest part of paradise. At the head, at the top of it, is the throne of Allah Azza wa Jal. So it is the highest part of paradise. The highest part of Jannah is known as Al-Firdaus. And it comes in the narration that the Prophet ﷺ, he says, if you're going to ask for Jannah, ask for Jannah to Firdaus. Ask for the most highest part of Jannah. And we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to make us of those who reach Jannah to Firdaus. Ameen. Shaykh Uthaymeen said, if you want to inherit Jannah to Firdaus, then upon you is 7 characteristics. If you can obtain these 7 characteristics, if you can lock them in, if you can actually implement these 7 characteristics, you will be guaranteed to reach Jannah to Firdaus. But I'm going to tell you right now, as I was going over the 7 characteristics, I realized how deficient I am in most of the 7 characteristics. Now, they might seem a little bit simple on the onslaught, but they're not. And this is something that if you pay attention in the beginning of Surah Minun, in the first 10 verses, or 11 verses there, Shaykh Uthaymeen said these 7 characteristics are mentioned. That you are able to obtain Jannah al-Firdaus, the most highest part in paradise, only if you can lock down these 7 characteristics. And I want us to reflect on these 7 characteristics by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says in the 23rd chapter of the Quran, which is known as Surah Mu'minun, the believers, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qad aflaha al-mu'minun. الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون أولئك هم الوارثون الذين يرثون الفردوس هم فيها خالدون. In these 11 verses, the first 10 of these verses, Allah Jalla wa Ala, he highlights some important characteristics that by the end of it you will be able to inherit the Jannah al-Firdaus. So it's important that the believer, the one who has at least an atom weight of Iman, pay attention to these following verses. because this is where we want to end up at. We want to end up right beneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that those who are going to be right under beneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they're going to see Allah, that they're going to hear Allah Azza wa Jal every morning? Can you imagine that? Just being under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we want to reach this state. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. I want you to understand something here. This aflaha is a fi'l madi, okay? And it's a fi'l madi, which is a mazid, which is a verb that has an added word to it, is on a different wazn, okay? But what it conveys and what you need to understand, as a believer who has iman, you have already won. Allah Azza wa Jal said, indeed the believers are already successful. That's what this verse is telling you. The believers are not seeking success. That's a big misconception that many people have. The believers in and of itself, having been guided to iman, into Islam, into the sunnah, and to the understanding of the Prophet and the Sunnah, as long as they practice it and implement it with the aid and assistance of Allah Jalla wa Ala, they are already successful. So you don't have to seek and look for success. You can stop that right now. They are already successful. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Then Allah Jalla wa Ala, after telling you that the believers are already successful, He gives you a list of characteristics that goes along with the believers that He is talking about. So He give you who the believers, and then He tell you who those believers are. What do they have? What are their qualities? What are their characteristics? Who are these believers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they are already successful? Allah tells you in the first one, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. I want you to stop here. The first quality is the salat. But it's not just establishing the salat. It's salat with khashiyah. It is salat with khushu'. It is the salat that have khashiyah wa khushu'. And the ulama, they have explained that khushu', it covers three things. And a lot of us, even myself, when it comes to the prayer, we can be honest with ourselves. This is why some of the ulama, they have mentioned that the khushu' is from the pillars of the prayer and not from the wajibats. They say it's actually from the pillar of the prayer. If there's no khushu' in the prayer, and there's hadith for it that actually support this view, that if there is no khushu' within the prayer, there is no prayer. The prayer isn't accepted. Do you understand this? As the Prophet ﷺ, he saw the man praying and performing the salat a little bit bad, incorrect. And the man, he finished the salat and he came over, he saw the Messenger of ﷺ and he said, Assalamu alaikum, extended him to the greetings. The Prophet ﷺ returned the greetings and told him, فَرْعِرْجَعْ فَلَمْ تُصَلِّ. He told him to go back and pray, for you have not prayed. The man went back and performed the prayer the same way he performed the prayer the first time. Because he don't know if anything wrong. Then he salam out, does the same thing, and the Prophet ﷺ tell him again, go back, for you have not prayed. When the man finished, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't know nothing, anything better than this. Can you teach me? The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned some important points here. So khushu' is important. This is why you can't get away in Islam. Me, you, nobody. It don't matter what thobe I wear. It doesn't matter what kufi I wear. It doesn't matter how I sound. It doesn't matter how I look. It doesn't matter the words that come out of my mouth. I can recite Quran to the, to Allah snatch my soul. That is not what we look for. We're not impressed by that. Allah Azza wa Jal knows the individual. This is why Allah said, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do not ascribe purity to yourselves. هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Allah knows best he who fears him the most. So you don't have to try to put on ears for people. I don't have to do that because that doesn't guarantee me a spot with Allah. Allah Azza wa Jalla, knowing that khushu', when you offer the prayer, you have to offer the prayer with true, complete devotion, and you have to have three things there. They call it hadr al-qalb, that the individual should have his attentive heart, that he should be concentrating on the prayer. Henceforth, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that he who performs the prayer and not thinking about anything except Allah, 2 units of prayer, 2 rak'ahs of prayer, if he can perform that, he or she is guaranteed, the Prophet ﷺ said, they will enter paradise. How many of us struggle with just the khushu' of the prayer, man? This is why I told you that these characteristics are not just that easy. How many of us struggle with our prayer on the daily basis, let alone offer them on their stated times, let alone offering our Father them, let alone, do you understand? Let alone all of that. How many of us, when we perform the prayer, as Allah Azza wa Jalla says, about the hypocrites. وَإِذَا قَامُوا صَلَاةً إِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسَ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And في Surah An-Nisa, Allah Azza wa Jalla described the munafiqeen. He said that the hypocrites, and may Allah protect us from nifaq. He says the hypocrites, when they stand for the prayer, they stand out of laziness. And they only stand to be seen of men. And they only remember Allah less. مُذَبْذَبِينَ بَيْنَ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاءِ. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentioned that they go in between two states. Neither here nor there, like blowing with the wind. They are not firm. They are not settled. They don't have no khushu'. It's important that we understand this first characteristics, because the salat is muhim. If we don't understand the characteristics of salat and the performance of the salat and the prayer of the salat, this is why we don't get that tasteness, as the Prophet ﷺ said that the salat has been made, ju'ilatu salat qurratu ayni, has been made the delight of my eyes. Many of us, and I'm not excluded, many of us, when we perform the prayer as if it's just a burden, or is it something that we just have to get done? And we don't really take our time with the prayer. And if you think you're going to get to Jannah Fridaus, you need to make sure you have khushu' in your prayer. Don't be like the Sahaba who said, don't be a person who have khushu' in his body limbs, but not no khushu' in his heart. And they said, what do you mean? He means he's being nifaq upon his body limbs, meaning he's being humble outwardly with his body limbs. But in the prayer, his heart is not even connected. He's not even attentive. He don't know what he's saying. He doesn't understand what's being said. He don't even know who he's praying to. He don't know none of these things. So how he think he's going to get close to Allah Azza wa Jalla? So outwardly he's being seen amongst men as if this person is doing that. La. We cannot hide from ourselves and from Allah Azza wa Jalla. This is why it doesn't matter what you think you got. You don't have nothing if Allah doesn't accept it. Do you understand? This is why the more you know, the more the microscope's supposed to get bigger. The more you're supposed to see your flaws. The more you're supposed to see your faults. The more you're supposed to understand your deficiency. The more you're supposed to beg for Allah's mercy. Do you understand? And each prayer that we perform is supposed to only be in to correct the first prayer. Do you understand that? Each prayer that you and I make is only to correct the first prayer. Because we don't know if the first prayer was accepted or not. So each prayer that we're performing, we're going to be performing the prayer to perfect the prayer until we reach Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah is so merciful that He allowed the 5 prayers to be actually supported by the Sunan Muratib, those prayers that follow from the supererogatory prayers. Then He allowed the other supererogatory prayers from besides the Sunnah Muratib, the highly recommended Sunnah Muratib, other prayers that you can perform to what Allah is going to look at those different things to support your actual prayer. So you are praying a prayer that you're going to continue to pray until you meet your Lord. You're only trying to correct the first prayer. Do you understand that? This is why you see some of the Sahabas, they say that in order to achieve this, they used to say, as the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, what did he say? He say, oh, pray the prayer as if it's your last prayer. Do you understand? He was trying to get you to achieve a state where you can say, okay, this is my last prayer. I have no other prayer after this. So this one has to count. So you're going to be on your best guard. You're going to make sure everything is being covered. You're going to have the khushu' that is needed. Do you understand? So we ask Allah to give us this quality, having khushu' within our prayer. Really being attentive to what we're saying. From the moment we takbir to the moment we taslim, that we really be in tune with our prayer. Then Allah Jalla wa Ala, He mentioned after that, okay, I want to keep this real. I'm not trying to get no brownie points here. I really want you to understand this. Most of these qualities I am deficient in. Okay, I'm talking about myself. So I don't want no one to think I'm sitting here trying to, I'm not saying this out of humbleness. I'm being real honest. So if we want to reach Jannah Fridaus, we need to tighten up on these 7 characteristics. The next quality, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. Those who turn away from false, vain, evil, repulsive speech. I'm going to take a little bit of time here. If you don't know it and I don't know it, I know that we caught up in this dunya. It can happen to the best of us. Some of us still got albums playing in our head when we was young. Some of us still got songs that we didn't memorize, whole songs that we didn't memorize. Some of us still have certain things. And we know that those speech can either fall under that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and that which Allah hates. So speech, whether it's obscene or it's evil, whatever, all of that falls under that. Do you understand? So musica falls under that. Those who turn away from vain speech, they don't speak it themselves, nor do they partake in listening to it. Do you understand this? It's a quality that we have to get to. Many of us are not at this level. You think it's easy, but it's not. Many are not at the level of saying, okay, I'm not going to listen to vulgar speech. I don't care who it coming from. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to listen to speech that is derogatory, speech that is at the top of it that speaks of shirk, speech that speaks of bid'ah, speech that speaks of kufr. I'm not going to listen to any of these type of speech that talk down on individuals, speech of backbiting someone, speech of tail carrying, speech of this. This meaning you're going to be on your best behavior. Imagine if you can achieve this state where you're an individual who doesn't entertain love, vain speech. Many people won't even want to be around you because when they are around you, your silence is benefit. When you speak, your speak is a benefit. Many people who don't seek benefit don't want to be around a person like that. You're going to be quiet. Because individuals, as they speak, they're only going to be speaking about that which is correct or not which is correct. So Allah Jalla wa Ala is showing us in this verse that the quality is that they do what? They turn away from false speech. They guard what they listen to. They guard what they listening to. They take that seriously. And they understand what they listen to can seep into their heart. Do you understand this? And I know a lot of people use the famous athars and the famous statements of how the Salaf will put their fingers in their ears just to keep out the person of innovation who's a true innovator calling to his innovation. They used to do like this. I don't want to hear nothing, one word, even if he's reciting Quran, so it won't seep in my heart. I know we love those type of athars, right? They give us fiery up and we think we're really on the hawk, but we're so deficient and everything else. I understand that. But the reality is you have to reach a level where as though you can turn away from that stuff. I'm not there. We have to reach the level where we can turn away from that. All right? So if you just look at the first two characteristics, having khushu' in your prayer, that's going to take you a lifetime working on. Then you look at turning away from false value and listening to false speech. That's another level that you have to reach to get to. Half of your friend list, you might know can't be friends with them no more if you really try to practice this. They're not going to have nothing good to say. They're going to be talking about somebody, backbiting, backstabbing somebody, doing this. You're going to have to get rid of most of your friends. You can't even talk to them because this is what they're going to be doing. Allah Azza wa Jal says those who turn away from lagu, you're already doing, they turn away from it. They don't listen to it. They don't engage in it. They don't find it juicy. They're not asking for some tea. They're not looking for none of that. That's not what inspires them. That's not what motivates them. That's not what drives them. That's not what pushes them. No, they don't give it an ear. Also, it's from rujula. It's from masculinity to stand up on your principles and not falter. When an individual can say, no, I don't want to hear you talk about so-and-so. If anything you have to say about so-and-so, say it to him, not to me. Say it to her, not to me. I'm not going to engage in that. Do you understand? It takes a level of rujula, a level of muru'ah to reach that type of level. So that's the second characteristic that we must adorn ourselves with if we want to get to Jannah to Fridaus. He didn't say it was going to be easy. Then Allah continued next. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Now, Salat is a silla bayna al-abd wa bayna al-rabb. The prayer is that connection that is between the servant and his Lord. As long as the servant continues to pray, and dua is a form of prayer. Linguistically, salat means dua. So as long as the servant continues to pray, the servant is connected to his or her Rabb. Do you understand that? So also the prayer is that if a person performs it, it has the ability to purify a person's heart, a person's limbs, as well as a person's thoughts. Do you understand? It has an ability to do that. So on the top of that, Allah says they turn away from vile speech, meaning they don't give ear to that. That's the second characteristic. But look at this third one. This third one that you find them in their actions giving to those who are less fortunate than them. They give the necessary zakat if it's due upon them. Allah Azza wa Jal says they give the zakat. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. You see that Allah Jalla wa Ala mentioned on the tongue of Isa ibn Maryam that even in his time, the Sharia that was there is that and Sharia during his time that was there, that Allah Jalla wa Ala mentioned that he says what? Indeed, my Lord has enjoined upon me what? He enjoined upon me salat was zakat. Zakat was mentioned then. Allah also mentioned in Bani Israel that zakat was always mentioned. Zakat is a purifier. It's not only the fact that you spend, as the Prophet ﷺ said, that he who gives, he spends, it's as a purifier. Do you understand? Zakat is a purifier. Afmar. No, mashallah, afwan. So he says zakat is something that purify our actions. Alhamdulillah, right? And he said that our actions are purified by way of that zakat. So when you spend your money, what you're doing is you're exterminating or you're extinguishing the actual sins that you have. So really and honestly, you ever hear somebody say they're trying to buy their way into paradise? Right? Many people try to actually do that. Zakat is something that we need to practice. Many of the Muslims today, they don't really understand the details of zakat, because a lot of them, they say, well, I might don't fall in the nasab. That's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true that under the nisab of zakat that you don't fall under it. You have to know that you don't fall under it. All right? It's not assuming, it's not guessing, and none of that. You have to know whether or not you are not the people who are zakat is due upon. You have to know that. So that takes knowledge. You're going to have to learn and study that. You can't just say, no, I don't fall under it. No, that doesn't work like that. Some of us have been gifted and blessed by Allah Azza wa Jal to make 30,000, make 40,000, make 50,000, make 60,000 a year. Some of them blessed to have those type of jobs. Some of them blessed to have surplus money sitting in our bank account over a certain amount of time, over the nasab. We have to do it. Some of them blessed with having businesses where we have certain businesses that we own and we have merchandise that we had for a year or so that reach the point of nasab. Some of us have to know that. This is obligatory. It also is from the 5 pillars of Islam. Do you understand? Some of us have to understand these important things. So Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions zakat. Zakat is very, very vital to economical stability. It's also vital to the society actually flourishing. This is why when you look at it, it's not about taxes. Allah didn't use zakat as a way of a tax, as some people have the misunderstanding. He used it as a way of making sure that he regulate and keep the balance. Those who have, Allah have given them more, they should, by out of their willingness, give to those who are less needy or less fortunate than them. But Allah Jalla wa Ala telling you that he wasn't being oppressive to them, he said, do not take from the best of their wealth. Meaning that they can give what is feasible enough to give. They don't have to give the top quality thing that they have. And this also helps to get rid of stinginess. So the third quality of the 7 characteristics is giving zakat. Now the fourth one, you already know. You already know. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. You already know. Alright? This is important. You already know. I'm not going to go too heavy on this one. You already know. Many of us deficient times 20 when it comes to this. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. Those who guard their chastity. Those who guard their private parts. Okay? So Allah doesn't leave it there. He mentioned 2 more verses pertaining to how the halal or the permissible means of those private parts are to be utilized. Okay? So guarding the private parts have the definite effect to land you into Jannah al-Fridaus. As the Prophet ﷺ said, I guaranteed in authentic narration that he who can contain what's between his mouth, guarantee you, what's between his 2 jaws, meaning his tongue, and what's between his legs, his private parts, I guarantee you a house for him in paradise. That this individual will have a house for him in paradise if he can guard what's between his legs and what's between his tongue. What you say and also your private parts. Something that get many people in trouble. Also, the Prophet ﷺ has also mentioned that what? That the person who commit, that guarding the chastity, what it does for the individual is that not only does it protect the person from entering in the hellfire, but it also keep the very fabric of society intact. Do you understand? They are coming up with understandings that now that a female who have multiple sex partners can actually cause something to, a STD can happen, which can cause something inside her body, which is in her, I believe in her liver, that it can start attacking it due to the multiple different sex partners she can have, right? And you might say, because it becomes unchecked. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, those who guard their private parts, إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ. The first permissible means, or the halal means, where a person can use or utilize their private parts is through marriage, nikah. That's the first permissible means. All right? The first permissible means is through nikah. Allah said, إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ. Except with their lawful spouses. Not your boyfriend. There's no such thing as a lawful boyfriend or lawful girlfriend. There's no such thing as that. Oh, that's my lawful girlfriend. Oh, that's my lawful spouse. There's no such thing. Okay, and this, like I said, this speech is not just against for you guys, it's also for myself as well. There's no such thing of the status of a baby mom taking the status of a wife. There's no such thing as that in Islam. Okay, there's no such thing. You speak the haqq, whether it's for you or against you. No baby mom can take the status, or baby father can take the status of being your lawful husband. Okay, there's no such thing as that. I don't care if you share 4 kids, 5 kids, 7 kids, it doesn't matter. All right. Marriage is the permissible means, okay? Nothing else. No roommate, okay, can take that lawful status. No bestie, no friends with benefits, none of this crazy stuff that is from the talbis of shaitan that is harming us, that we thinking that all of these different things are good. If you really care for a person, and this should be a telltale sign for you and I. When a person really want good from someone, what do they want good for them? Is it in the dunya? The Prophet ﷺ says, "La yu'minu ahadakum hatta yuhibba liyaqihi ma yuhibbu li nafsi." The Prophet ﷺ said, none of you truly believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. All right? So at the top of the list, what should be the thing that you want for your brother or your sister? What should be? Should be what we talking about, Jannah, right? Jannah should be at the top of the list. So if Jannah is at the top of the list, I want Jannah for you just like I want Jannah for myself. So why in the world would I sit there and say to you, right, that it's okay for us to do this in any way or any format besides marriage? You have to analyze that. If a person is telling you that it's okay to do this or to do that outside of the institution of marriage, meaning that we have to relieve ourselves or release our fluids, then we can do it in this way. That person is calling you to the nar and not to the Jannah. That person is inviting you to the fire and not to the paradise. That person is a telltale sign you need to run away from. If your senses is so dull that you think for 1 second that this is okay, because see, you don't get it. You don't really get it. You think that, okay, nobody understands the way he makes me feel, the way she makes me feel. No one gets it. No one this, no one that. No, what you don't get is that you're going to burn. That's what you don't get. And Allah Jalla wa Ala is so just that He allow you to burn here. Okay? In a ma'nawiya way. Not talking about physically. You're going to burn, that's the next. But in a ma'nawiya way, meaning in an intangible way, people burn. You ever get in a relationship where as though it's haram, nothing comes of it, 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, some people 12, 13 years. They might have a couple of kids here, but it's the most toxic relationship they ever been in. It's the most dangerous and harmful thing they ever been through. Abuse, verbally, physically, whatever you want to think about, humiliation, non-stop, back to back. They get in all of these problems and trials. Oh, this and that. And it took them over 10 years, 2 black eyes, losing this, losing that, don't having this, going from here to that to realize, oh, this wasn't the one for me. It took you that long to figure that one out. That this wasn't the one for me. When a telltale sign that your iman, which is a light from the Creator, should have told you from the door that if someone is calling you to do something that is haram, that it wasn't the one for you in the first place. That they didn't want Jannah for you. So if that was the case, that should have told you to go the other way. But you didn't do that because, like they said, desire is a hidden trap. So you didn't fall into that hidden trap. And the lasting results and the consequences of desire is more devastating than the actual pleasure that you enjoy. You didn't got in a relationship. It was banging for the first month to 3 months. Trust me, it don't last longer than 6 months. So in the first 3 months, it was banging. Everything was good. Everything seemed good. After that, you're trying to recover and get yourself out, even if it lasts up to 10 more years. After that 6 months, he's never the same. She's never like she was when you first met him. He's never like he was when you first met him, right? That's what you keep telling yourself, right? I'm going to get it up. I'm going to get away. But he got potential. She got potential. You sound crazy. You sound crazy. That's what you do. The potential that you thought you should have seen is wanting good for you. How do he want good for you? He wants good for your soul. He wants you to reach Al-Jannah. He wants you to get connected to Allah Azza wa Jalla. She wants you to do the same. But if we keep playing these games and not guarding our private parts, we're not going to be from the people that reach Jannah till Fridaus. Do you understand? The 7 characteristics, Allah said, إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ. Okay, that's the first permissible means. And then he mentioned after that, أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ. And since none of us don't have no free slaves, your girlfriend is not your free slave. Fighting someone and talking about this is my concubine, that's not your free slave. That's not even here. It's not established. So you can't utilize that. So you only have to use the first means, which is marriage. Stop playing and man up. If that chick don't want to get married, leave her. She's a shaitana. Bottom line. Prophet ﷺ was walking with his companions. A female was walking right close to them. He told her to walk on the other side, the outer side. Don't walk close to the men. Walk on the outer side. She wanted to do what she wanted to do. He said, leave her alone, for rather she's a what? Shaitana. Everything that look good isn't good. Period. Everything that smell good definitely isn't good. Period. You don't have to be all caught up in those senses. You have to keep your light of Iman. That's what's going to give you your light to move about. You can't play around. Man up. You wonder why all of these single parents are out here and these children are running amok and they're running crazy, don't have no structure, no guidance, no understanding, no this, and you wonder why you're not playing any contribution to that. Because there's broken homes. You're playing a part of that broken home. You're feeding in that narrative of that broken home. You weren't man enough in the first place to begin to build a family. Just because you released some fluid wasn't it. You weren't man enough. You didn't understand what it meant. That woman tell you that she's pregnant, that means get your together. That's what it means, man. Get yourself together. Get your soul together. Get everything right. Now you have a new life coming, so you're going to be responsible for that person. That's what it means. It doesn't mean, oh, I'm the man, I got so-and-so child here, I got so-and-so child. It doesn't mean that, man. It doesn't. And all it do is trickle over to the fact that this is what's going on in the community. Let's look at this. Look at the questions. Think about it. Exactly what's going on in the community. So-and-so sleeping with so-and-so. So-and-so is sleeping with so-and-so. That didn't work out, so they go back to so-and-so. So-and-so still stuck off on so-and-so, so so-and-so can't really get involved with the new relationship because they still caught on so-and-so. So then they stuck in between. So when so-and-so get their stuff together, what think it is, they go back and dip back into so-and-so and then slide it the other brother so-and-so. You understand how this go? This whole big game, the shaitan have you playing back and forth. When you had honor and izzah in Islam, when you had the light of your iman supposed to dictate what was right, the moment an individual is okay with you going outside of the constitution of marriage, that's the moment you're dealing with a shaitan and not with a person. Do you understand the difference? The moment an individual do that, that's a telltale sign for you and I, they do not want Jannah for you. Allah Azza wa Jalla said about shaitan, he said, Inna shaitana wa hizbuhu yad'u ila ashab as-sa'ir. He said, indeed, that only the shaitan and his party, not just from amongst the jinns, only the shaitan and his party, they call you to be from the people of the fire. So think about what they're going to do. What are going to be their actions? They're not going to be telling you to do right. You're never going to find a shaitan and telling you to do right. Yeah, they might tell you some haqq, some truth here and there, you know, but they're not going to tell you to do right. They're not going to inspire you to do right. Just, come on, that don't make sense. You know? So ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to allow us to reach that level. Guard. That's the fourth characteristic. The 4 of the 7 characteristics is guarding our private parts with our legal spouses. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فَمَنْ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. And he said, whoever transgresses beyond that, meaning go outside of the constitution of marriage, then this person, and then they are the people who are transgressors. Whoever go beyond that bound. Do you understand? Whoever goes outside of that bound, they are the ones that's transgressing. We need to start really thinking. This is why the Prophet ﷺ, he says, and this comes in Riyadh Salihin, even though we place it in the in his Riyadh Salihin about the hadith of the man who's about 60 years old and he cannot control his desires and he's still fornicating. The Jannah is not for this person. Because you figure at a certain age, you should be able to have control different from your youth. When you're a youth, you probably don't have so much control. You run loose and your libido is high, whatever. But when you are a elderly man, when you reach 60, you become elderly. Not in the sense that you become infirm. Elderly man don't mean a person who's weak. That's not what it means. All right? So when you become elderly, that don't mean that you're infirm, you're incapable, but you should have a more strong control over your nafs than when you are 30 or when you are 20, etc. So it's a shame that you reach to this age that Allah bless you and you can't control your desires. Do you understand? So this becomes important to understand these things. That's why it hits right in. Allah gives us multiple means of actually doing that which is right. And we start thinking about the implications. Think about it. How much good do a person want for you if they can't man up and be responsible for you? They can't man up and be responsible for you. And then you allow the society that you're in to push this persona or push this agenda that you can do good or do bad by yourself. What is wrong with you? Are you telling that the Creator made this, he just made everything up? He didn't know what he was doing. Let's just say, Allah, you didn't know what you was doing. You know, I got this. You didn't know what you were doing. And not the fact that he created Adam and then he created Eve from Adam. Not the fact that he created, he made an institute of marriage. Not the fact that he gave you desires, that he allowed you to have fluids. Not the fact that even from the desires that you have can produce a baby. Not the fact that all of this thing, that the family unit is something that is encouraged by the Creator. None of that. Not the fact that to add plural marriages. All of these different things have been instituted so that you can control the desire he gave you. You don't even get it. That's what it was instituted for. He gave you a desire to release it. That's why he prohibits you from saying that you're not going to get married ever. That's why celibacy is prohibited. He gave you an outlet for the desire that he gave you. And within the desire that he gave you, it can be pleasure that you can get and you can produce another soul. Do you understand that? How perfect is Allah Azza wa Jalla? Subhanallah al-Azim. How perfect he is. He gave you all of these different outlets to make sure you control your desire and you still find a way to go outside of that. What do that say? You still find a way outside of that. Still find a way outside of that. I can't deal with the Muslims no more. I'm going to go ahead and deal with the kuffar. As if that was better. How you go from Iman to kufr? I don't get it, man. That was better? You fighting with someone's soul? That was, how can that make sense? Tell me. That was better. But this is what you tell yourself. I can't, the Muslims did me this. I've been in this. It's time to deal with somebody that's non-Muslim. And that was better, right? See how the shaitan fooled you? That became worse. But it was better. In your mind, it was better because the shaitan made it seem into you that it was better. You see? And your aql stopped working like it's supposed to work, and you actually rationalize it out that all you're going to do is give dawah to the person so they can come to Islam and you can be with them so you don't have to suffer the same thing you suffer at the hands of the person who was a fasik in the first place. Do you not understand this? It wasn't the person just because he was Muslim. The person was already the fasik in the first place. It was because you were sitting there appeasing that stuff. You didn't go for the best Muslim. You didn't go for the better Muslim or the practicing Muslim. You went for the one who wasn't. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and now it's a problem. Now Islam ain't, it's this or that. Be truthful with yourself, man. That's all you got to do. Be truthful with yourself. Don't try to say it was Islam. Don't try to say it was Allah. Don't try to say it was this. It was you, and it was your nafs. And because of that, you made a decision that caused you a lifetime of problems. But all you had to do is guard yourself, and this is why the reward, look at the reward for doing it. Jannah Fridaus, you're right under the throne of Allah. Look at the reward. Allah gave you Jannah to Fridaus if you can just guard your private parts. Simply, if you can just guard your private parts, you are underneath the throne of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Let's move on to the fifth characteristic. Allah Jalla wa Ala says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. This is a talk in and of itself, so I'm only going to briefly touch on it. But those who, when it comes to their trust, things that they are entrusted with, and when it comes to their covenants, their contracts, there are those who guard it and they fulfill their responsibilities. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. O you who believe, Allah Azza wa Jalla says what? To fulfill your contract. Awful uqud. To fulfill your contracts. To keep to your covenant. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says about those who validate the covenant after confirming it. You understand? So the covenant is something that Allah Azza wa Jalla said that they must keep to. Keep the contracts. This what brings about sidq. You can't say I'm a truthful person and you're a person that breaks your contracts, or you're a person that invalidates your contracts, or you're a person that no one can trust. That's contradiction. You can't say you're a truthful person. Do you understand? I'm not known to be a liar, but I'm a truthful person, but I don't keep to my contracts and I break my trust. You're not truthful if you do that. That doesn't go hand in hand. You understand? If you're a truthful person, from the characteristics of sidq is a person keep to their contracts. Henceforth, the Prophet ﷺ was told by a man that they were going to meet up at a place, as was mentioned in the authentic narration, and the Prophet ﷺ waited for the man for 3 days. Why? Because he told the man he was going to be there, and then he was there. You understand? Keeping that trust, keeping that contract fulfilled. Keeping that, which is something that is not easy, man. A lot of us still have problems with that. I know I am deficient in regards to a lot of this stuff. We have to become truthful people. Truthful people brings about love. People speak of you. People praise you. People want to be around you. People will protect you by the way of Allah Azza wa Jalla, because they know that you are a solid, stand-up individual. Period. But the moment you start betraying trust, the moment, and see how it go hand in hand? Because if you betray a trust and if you break a covenant, you're a liar. You understand? See how it go hand in hand? So this is how it goes down. These characteristics are characteristics that are noble, and that even the liar acknowledges that it's noble. Even the thief acknowledges that it's noble. Even the underworld, or the criminal world you want to call it, they acknowledge that these characteristics are noble. And guess what else they acknowledge? The fact that they want to be associated with people that are like that. Do you understand? This is important to understand these concepts. So Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned the fifth one is that what? We keep to our responsibility. If you have children, they are from your responsibility. You have to keep to your trust. You understand that? You have children, you got to keep to your trust. You wonder why the sister hates you. You wonder why she got all in the world things saying to you in the world. Because you don't keep to your trust. You done made every excuse in the book to not keep to your trust. And I'm telling you, bro, I'm no better than you. But Islam teaches us to keep to our trust, to our ability. And you sisters need to fear Allah Azza wa Jal if an individual is striving to their ability, because that's what they're responsible for. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in Surah Al-Talaq that let the man who according to his means, وَلْيُنْفِقْ, let him spend according to his means. If he has this amount, then this is what's required of him. You can't go beyond that. You can't say, oh, he ain't doing this, he ain't doing that, he's not doing that. If he have by his means, then you understand that. You can't go outside of that. You understand? So you be just in regards to that, because you're destroying a child no more than what you think the father is doing. But the trust of an individual must be kept. And from amongst our trust is our children. Do you understand? From amongst our trust and covenant that Allah has given us is our children. And last but not least, before I touch off this subject, also from the covenant that Allah has given us is the Shahada itself. And many of us are deficient when it comes to the Shahada. That's the number one trust. If you break the trust with Allah, you're going to break the trust with everyone else after that. If you're not truthful with Allah, you're not going to be truthful with anyone else. Do you understand the significance of that? If you're not truthful to your Shahada, how do we know a person's not truthful to the Shahada? They don't pray. They don't fast. They don't give zakat. How do we know a person not true? Oh, he or she doesn't pray. Yeah, they're not truthful to the covenant of the Shahada. That's how we know. How do we know they're not true? They don't pray. They don't fast. They don't give zakat. They don't do the 5 pillars. They don't do the art. What do? This is how we know an individual is not truthful to Allah Azza wa Jal. That's how deep it goes. All right? Then we look how weak they are to their covenant. They might pray, but it's never on time. It's always outside of time, or it's always late. They might pray, or it's some deficiency here or some this and there. Right? They might fast, but it's always, I only fast half the month of Ramadan. I only did a third of Ramadan. And they're not even like they got a concession like the woman who's on a period. All right? That's not the case here. But they, I just know if you're not truthful with your covenant with Allah Azza wa Jal, you can't be truthful with no one else. This is a telltale sign for you and I who have daughters. If you have daughters and your fathers and your daughters of age to get married, make sure you examine the person's shahada being truthful to his covenant. If he's not a person that prays, he's not a person that deserves your daughter. If he's not a person that fasts, he's not a person that deserves your daughter. If he's not a person that can hold on to those pillars of Al-Islam, he's not a person that deserves your daughter hand in marriage. Do you understand this? It's important to understand. Very important and vital to understand. Do you understand? So Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says that they keep to their trust in their contracts and they fulfill them. All right? So we had the first is the khushu' in the prayer. The second was staying away from vile speech. The third was actually spending zakat. The fourth was actually guarding your private parts. The fifth was actually keeping to your trust. The sixth is guarding all of the prayers. Okay? Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. Those who guard all of the prayers. Now, I want you to understand something here. The very second verse of describing the believers, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. He mentioned a very vital point, that when it comes to the prayer, the best prayer is that which have khushu' in it. Then he mentioned that all of the prayers need to be guarded. How do you guard the prayers? The ulama, they mentioned, give you a list of how you guard your prayer. You guard your prayer by praying your prayers on time. That's the best stated times. That's number one. That's a part of hifdul salat. Guarding your prayers is praying them on their stated times. All right? We're not all going to be perfect, but we need to strive to that. And when I say strive to that, if today, for example, you didn't pray all five on its times and it wasn't a legal excuse for you not to do it, make sure if Allah allow you to reach the next day, you make up for that day. Do you understand? That's how you do that. If you didn't pray, as the Prophet ﷺ, if he didn't pray the night prayer, he will pray the Sunnah Maratib prayers within the day, along with the obligatory prayers. He will always make up for what he wasn't able to do the day before. This is from his Sunnah. Do you understand? So if you want to get to that level, what you need to do is make up for what you didn't do. Do you understand? You're going to fall. It's going to be deficient. It's not going to be a case where you're not going to sleep past Fajr. That's going to happen. If you don't have a legal excuse, though, this is the point. If you don't have a legal excuse under the people who are ahlu ahadhur, then you need to really pay attention to that. Guarding your prayers is praying at a state going to time. Okay? That's number one. Number two, guarding your prayers is making sure you have a wudu that is perfect. What do I mean by perfect wudu? Meaning isbaghul wudu. Because wudu is the miftahul salat. That the prayer is not accepted without that wudu. So you want to make sure you learn about your wudu. Make sure your wudu is complete. That each part that need to be wiped is wiped. Each part that need to be washed is fully covered in water. That you're not missing any of those parts. Do you understand this? It's important. And then you want to guard your prayer. You got your guarding of the wudu. And then another way you guard your prayer is establishing them according to what need to be established from his wajibat, from his pillars, from his shuruhat, from his conditions, from all of those different things. Do you understand? These is how you guard your prayer. You understand? Guard your prayer. And I'm telling you, it's not going to be easy. Some days we're going to fall and fell. But guess what we can do? If Allah granted us another day, we should be thinking about making up that day. Dhuhr was weak yesterday. I didn't pray it on time. Yeah, I don't think I knew I was in a hurry. I was in a rush. But guess what? Dhuhr came up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this Dhuhr better than the last Dhuhr. And I'm going to improve this Dhuhr better than the last Dhuhr. And I'm going to guard my prayers. Allah mentioned about the 6 characteristics of those who guard their prayers. All right? Sadaqashiyun, those who turn away lago. Zakat, furuj, guard their private parts. Alright? And when they guard it with those whom are their wives or their right hand possessors. That's the actual fifth one. The sixth one was actually guarding your trust. And the last one was actually guarding your prayers. After Allah mentioned all 7 of these characteristics, if Shaykh Uthaymeen said if you want to be able to get to this Jannah to Fridaus, then you have to lock in all 7 of these prayers. Remember that. Khushur in your prayer, work on that. You're going to spend a lifetime doing that anyway. Wait, I'm almost done. I'm almost done, are you? Okay, I'm almost done. Lifetime in your prayer. Second one is staying away from vain speech. That is extensive. Don't engage in it. And I know a lot of us, we still fall into it. We still got to wean ourselves off of that music stuff. We still got to wean our stuff off that listening to this or listening to that bad poetry and all that stuff. We still have to work on that stuff. You got to get rid of that. You understand what I'm saying? You want to perfect that. And then 3, you want to actually learn about your nasab. See if you reach that level for you have to pay zakat. Do you understand? And then 4th, you want to guard your private parts. And then you want to make sure that you're only using in a halal manner, which is in the institution of marriage. It's your 5th, okay? So you want to get married. Your 6th thing is that you want to guard your trust in your covenants. And remember, the first covenant that you want to make sure, if you guard the first covenant, every other covenant after that is going to be easy. Understand the difference here? If you're able to guard the very first covenant, every covenant and contract that you embark upon after that will be easy. This is guaranteed. You only have to make sure that the first covenant is intact, and that's your shahada. Do you understand? If you can guard your covenant with Allah, then that's going to make you a better person in guarding, easy to guard the contracts and the trusts that you have after that. And then the 7th one is guarding all of your prayers, and we talked about ways you can do that. May Allah Jalla wa Ala please allow us and strengthen us to have these 7 characteristics, and allow us to be from those believers who are already successful, and allow us to reach Jannah to Fridaus. So Allah says at the end, the reward for those who actually have these 7, He said, Ulaika humul warithun. He said, these are those who possess these 7 characteristics, are those who would inherit. Alladina yarithun al-Fridaus. Those who would inherit. These are those who are the inheritors. They were inherited al-Fridaus, the highest part of Jannah. Hum fiha khalidun, and they will abide therein forever. We ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to make you, to make me, and to make you from amongst them. Ameen. This is what I was able to bring this morning as a way of a benefit and encouragement for myself and for you all. Shaykh Uthaymeen rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, he mentioned if any person wants to inherit this Fridaus, then let him take keen in obtaining these 7 characteristics that are mentioned in this verse. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallahu khairan.